Good morning. It's 9 o'clock on February 21st, 2024, the regular meeting of the Monterey Peninsula Airport District Board of Directors. Roll call, please.
Director Gagliardi?
Here.
Director Pick?
Here.
Director Soni is not yet here. Director Miller?
Here.
Chair Leffel?
Here, thank you. If we could have Pledge of Allegiance and Director Gagliardi, would you lead us, please?
Yes, absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
After we arrange our flags. So.
Yeah.
The military would get us.
That's right.
Communications and announcements, informational items. Staff?
I have one.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to bring your attention to the planning and marketing report. The Central Coast Art Association has completed the new art exhibit in our main mezzanine. It's called Visualizing the Many Wonders of Monterey Through Art. And we will be doing an opening reception on March 7th, beginning at 5 p.m. An invitation will be to follow once the Art Association gets that to us. We are going to combine the reception with the Seaside High School Getting Graphics exhibit as well. That one will be coming down sometime in mid-March, and then we'll be putting up a new youth one later in March, having two in March to celebrate National Youth Art Month.
So March 7th at 5 o'clock.
Correct.
If you have anything that you want to send electronically, we could also then send it out to the people that read all of our stuff.
Correct. That will come from, yes, we will be getting that from the Central Coast Art Association. They're putting together the graphic invitation that we will
Okay.
send out to everyone, and we'll also be providing it to all of their members, and we will be posting it.
Good, thank you. And Director Sani joined us at 9:03. If I may, Lisa and Carl and I attended the Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce annual luncheon, and we received a certificate for 33 years of continuous membership. So it is there for the files. Thank you. Also, I spoke at the Old Capitol Club last week or the week before, and talked about the airport, and it was well received. So it was a good group to present to. And got a lot of questions. They were very engaged with what's going on Highway 68 corridor and what we're doing with our modernization and safety program. So it was a good presentation. Public comments on non-agenda items. Jean, go ahead.
Thank you. I try to watch every month to stay on top of what's going on with the airport district. This is Jean Rash in Monterey Vista, District 3, I believe. And I'm an occasional critic, as you all know. And so it seems only fair to tell you how impressed I was with the agenda report today, that your unfunded accrued liabilities went down with your CARES contribution. So impressive that you had the foresight to devote that all to it. The increased employments, the on-budget items, the ratio of assets to liabilities, just very impressive, and I owe you that. It seems the biggest concern was that laser of the pilot, which is a deep concern. I don't know what you can do about it, but it's well noted that that's a problem, and anything you can do to help with that is appreciated. And just so you don't think I'm getting soft, please continue to work with your microphones. The board can be heard very well. Other speakers, it comes and goes. I don't know if that's a microphone issue or a placement issue, but perhaps someone could monitor the audio recordings and try to figure it out so that it works for the public, especially in this election year when people might be tuning in more frequently. And for that same reason, it would be great if the Zoom recordings could be accessed quicker. I know with the city of Monterey, they're immediately accessible on Zoom. Doesn't seem that hard to make them very, very accessible, especially again, given that it's going to be that it's an election year and candidates may really want to fine tune their understanding of the issues. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation. Do we have any other hands raised? Okay, anyone from the public? I see no public in the audience, so I will close public comment. We have a consent agenda. And we have 5 items on there. Is there any member of the public that would like to pull an item? Any member of the board?
I move with the adoption of the consent agenda. Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please, Denise.
Director Gagliardi, Director Pick,
Aye.
Director Sani,
Abstain.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Regular agenda item, UAL update by Jaime Trejo. You're on.
Good morning, Jaime. Are you there?
Mute.
I'm here. Good morning.
Yeah, this will be a
Uh,
Jaime and Mark presentation for you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Jaime Try with PFM Financial Advisors. Presented to the board here several times, a couple of years back when you initially made the $4 million additional discretionary payment to CalPERS. I believe everyone has the 2-page memo we sent out to provide an update. And as discussed, the district made a $4 million contribution using CARES Act to pay down the UAL. And it was very strategic, right? It was meant to help reduce your kind of ongoing fixed expenditures moving forward to create or increase capacity for some of your capital plans, and it was just a financially prudent practice. The additional discretionary payment was made in June of 2022, so it's coming up on 2 years. And the majority of it went to the safety fire plan because that's just the biggest plan. And one thing that we modeled using the models from CalPERS was reduction in payments. The payment for fiscal year 22-23 was projected to be in excess of $1 million for the 3 classic plans for police safety, fire safety, and miscellaneous. And the actual payment came out to about $640,000. So the district saved, in excess of $350,000 right off the bat. And in the next fiscal
Jaime,
year,
can you
the
say that?
payment-
Jaime, can you say that
Yep.
again? The 2 numbers and
Yep, sorry about that. The expected payment for fiscal year 22-23 was about $1 million for the 3 classic plans. That was prior to making the ADP. After making the ADP, the expected payment to CalPERS was lowered to about $640,000. So right off the bat, the district saved $350,000 by making that additional discretionary payment. And that's in year 1. And in year 2, fiscal year 23-24, the payment to CalPERS further dropped. And one of the reasons why it dropped from $640,000 to about $480,000 was the CalPERS experienced a fairly significant increase in its returns in fiscal year 2021. And the way CalPERS kind of works in their investment gains and losses, it takes a couple of years before it hits member agencies. So in fiscal year 2021, CalPERS had a big return, but that report for that year doesn't come out to fiscal year 22-23. So the first time it kind of hits your books administratively would be fiscal year 23-24. So there's a 2-year lag period between when CalPERS or how CalPERS performs and when that impacts member agencies. And then fiscal year So we covered fiscal year 22-23, your payments dropped. Again, fiscal year 23-24, your payments dropped even further because of the ADP and the performance for CalPERS. Now, CalPERS had a bad year in fiscal year 2022. They had negative return of almost 6%. So that year, fiscal 22, will impact your fiscal year 24-25 because there's a 2-year lag period. And that's what we show in the report. So this is why there's an increase in your payments in fiscal year 23-24 to fiscal year 24-25, and fairly significant in the safety and fire. They more than doubled. And those two plans are more than doubled. Part of it is how CalPERS, the actuaries, how they re-amortize the UAL for those two plans because they're closed plans. There's no active members in those plans. So the increase, the direct increase in fiscal year 24-25 is a result of the negative performance CalPERS experienced in 22. So not only did CalPERS not meet its investment target 6.8%, but it actually lost money, right? So the amount of assets you were expected to have was not met, and as a result, CalPERS is increasing your UALs in an effort to kind of make up for the loss of assets. And here we kind of look at the counterfactual in the next table. You know, we look at what if the district didn't make any additional discretionary payments, or if it didn't make that payment in 2022, what would your expected payment next fiscal year be? And that expected payment would be close to about $1.4 million. And again, CalPERS also didn't, and because you made the additional discretionary payment, your contribution, your payment to CalPERS for next fiscal year will be $931,000. So again, because you made the additional discretionary payment, you lowered your contribution for the next fiscal year by about $440,000. So you're right, in year one, you were better off about $350,000, year two, about the same. And in year three, you're about $440,000 better. So while CalPERS has underperformed and your contributions have increased this year over the prior year, you're still better off by having made that payment to CalPERS. And looking ahead, CalPERS underperformed in fiscal year 6/30/2023. So that's going to impact your payments in fiscal year 25-26. The CalPERS, I think the investment return is about 5.8%. They were targeting 6.8%. So you will see an increase, but not as big of an increase you saw this year because they didn't lose money. They just didn't meet their investment targets. Any questions?
No, we're sitting here feeling like victims. I'll open it up to the board. Director Sani?
I don't have anything at the moment. Let me ask this. What would it cost to buy it all down? Have we looked at that? And I know that's not where we want to go, but I'd like to have that understanding just in my back pocket.
Dr. Sani, you want to turn your microphone on?
Absolutely. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll repeat because my microphone was off. My question was, I want it in my back pocket. I don't think this is where we're going per se, but I would like to understand what would it cost to buy it all down, and just to understand that. Because I know that other districts and other jurisdictions have done that. And again, I don't think that's where our financial plan is going, but I still would like to understand that. Is that information that you would have? Or is that something that we would have to spend time on getting?
I have some of it. So there's two ways to look at it. You could make additional payment to get to 100% funded. But if you get to 100% funded, you're still kind of subject to CalPERS' investment performance. When you get to 100% funded, CalPERS still expects to meet the 6.8% investment returns to stay at 100% funded. So if they underperform, then you create a new UAL. So that's one thing. And the other thing, if you wanted to buy out of the system, I believe that's a number that's in the CalPERS reports where you say we're going to take our money out of, anything that could cause loss, and we're going to put it just in, in stocks and cash investments where we're pretty much guaranteed a return. That's a really expensive buyout number.
So, Director Sani, I think 12 years ago, we bought down to zero on, was it police or fire? Fire. We bought it to zero.
Now we're here.
And here we are because of the bad investments in the way that CalPERS is managed. So we have always paid our annual assessment. But when we bought it down, and we bonded that, and we saved ourselves quite a bit of money because it was, I think at the time it was about a 12% at CalPERS, and we bonded it at 4 or 5%. So we saved money. But it was a one-time deal, and we did it so that actually we would control our payments as we went out for the 52 million on the runway safety project. That's exactly what we did. And that's the dance that we're going to go through. We saw this in finance, and we asked Jaime then and Mark to come back to us and say, will the bond market look at us more favorably if we have more cash in the bank or if we have lesser payments? And that was the thing that we've asked them to come back to us with in the overall plan to see which makes more sense. But you can never get to zero with these people because unless you withdraw from the system and put it someplace else, and that's a long period. And meanwhile, the number keeps shifting while you're trying to withdraw.
So
So
we bought it down and we are now looking at 2 million.
Exactly.
As a thank you.
Yeah. So.
Okay. And there are penalties for being out of the system? I know we had conversations about this like 4 years ago.
We would
When
just
we
have to
did do-
duplicate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
normally you have to either duplicate it or provide some type of retirement system. There are some, I'm aware of one agency that has withdrawn from the system that then went to the 401k system.
Yeah.
What you end up doing is you end up saying to other public agency employees, don't bother coming here because your retirement system won't transfer over, and they end up not applying anyway. They sort of
Sure.
they filter themselves out because they don't want to be in a part of an agency that doesn't have the CalPERS component to it.
I did not have the perspective that we had done that 12 years ago. So I appreciate knowing that. And I appreciate the foresight of previous boards to do that. It's sad to see that we have a bill in front of us for 2 million right now, but I'll listen to others' thoughts on this.
I would just say it was a bit of a battle when we used the CARES Act money to pay down. We had one board member that was adamantly opposed to it, and at the end, even he agreed it was that we did the
Prudent,
best thing.
prudent.
So, but I think with the help of PFM and our staff, we're trying to understand it. And I sit on several public boards. This is one of the few boards that I think talks about this and is trying to get a grip on it and understand what the total is. So, Director Gagliotti,
No questions.
Director Pick,
No questions. Good work.
Director Miller.
Yeah, there was some good news in this report. Thank you. Remind me again, what is the return rate that PERS wants to get on everything?
This year.
6.8.
I'm sorry?
6.8%.
6.8. Okay, thank you. Well, that's a little bit lower than what we could get from a commercial source, right? What rates are we getting now? Would we get from a bond? What rates would we have to pay?
T-bills today are about 5.2.
Okay,
So I think the 6.8 isn't really the problem. It's the performance, and they performed at -7
yeah.
and change last year or
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the difference there is what we're having.
Yeah.
It's wonderful if you can go to the market and invest. and then, you miss your target and you can just hand the bill to somebody else.
Yeah.
I've seen the reports, but one of the huge problems with PERS is their social investing. They've decided to pull out of tobacco, firearms, oil, and all these things have had a negative impact on their returns. So if there was some way we could stop that from happening, would be great. Now I think they're going after pipelines. They don't like those in California now.
It's out of the scope of this board and this agency. I think the ballot box probably plays a role here at some point.
Yeah. Thank
If
you.
I could follow up, the board member asked about the UAL, like if you wanted to get 100% funded, what's the liability? According to CalPERS' most recent report, at the end of this fiscal year, your liability would be around $8.5 million. Again, that's assuming they hit their investment target this year.
Big assumption.
Then remember, they don't hit that target, and you've got new UAL.
Yeah.
We will analyze, Mark and Jaime and Brian Gallucci will analyze whether it makes sense for us to make an additional down payment. But that analysis isn't complete as yet.
Right. And the other comment I'll make is I had an extensive conversation with the actuary at CalPERS, and everything Jaime has demonstrated here is 100% consistent with the mechanics. As I frankly didn't understand how the numbers could swing so much, but I talked to the actuary and it just works that way. So.
Chair.
Yes.
Mark and Jaime, there are alternative investment vehicles, plans, programs that have come about in the last decade in California that allow for public institutions to invest funds that will grow that are restricted for use against paying your CalPERS investment, but allow for flexibility in the investment portfolio. Have we looked into any programs like that?
Yes. Yeah, it was before Mark's time, but we looked extensively at that as part of the analysis about the ADP, the advanced down payment. We looked at that, and Jaime's group did the analysis. It didn't make sense for us. It didn't negate the exposure that you think it would. And it just ties your hands even greater. So we ended up not doing that. We ended up just making the ADP.
The reason I mention that, thanks, Mike. The reason I mention it is given the direction that CalPERS investment is going, taking into consideration factors not relevant to investment return, and in fact, potentially counterproductive to investment return, we may want to revisit that.
So it's my understanding that if we did that, we would have a separate fund. That fund would grow, presumably. But the problem is that, let's just talk about a 5% return. If that was our return in a fund, meanwhile, what we've still got sitting over here in this pool is losing money. This is growing at a bigger rate than what our investment fund. I've revisited a couple of the people that I sit through lectures with, and they've changed their tune quite a bit over the last 2 years because of the losses that CalPERS had, and then the fact that the fund has grown. I don't know. One lady told me the fund that she managed grew like 7%. Well, meanwhile, you've got a 12% loss over here. So I think that's what we determined. We're better off to, if we have extra money, to put it against this and pay this down because we're paying them. And so, and ours is just a small slice of that whole CalPERS pie. We're just a teeny bit of that. The amount of money they lost globally in the state of California is eye-popping.
Hard to believe $8.5 million is budget dust, but it is.
Yeah, for CalPERS, it's nothing.
It's not.
For us, it's, you know, a new terminal.
Yeah.
It's big money.
So we put that in gold.
So, So, Jaime and Mark, you'll still come back to us maybe another month with just
Yes.
the dance?
Yeah, so what we want to do is kind of daylight for the upcoming budget process. So there'll be a higher payment than expected this coming fiscal year than we enjoyed in the past.
Okay, the sun was shining when we came in. Thanks, Jaime.
All right, always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Are there any hands raised? Okay, thank you. I'm going to close that item. And we'll talk about the terminal design update.
In advance of that, I would ask that since this is a somewhat complicated issue, please allow the presenters to go through the entire presentation and then ask the questions afterwards, because some of the questions that you might have will be answered later. All right. So we have Bart Van Vliet and Alan Bright from HOK. They're two of our architectural teams, architectural team that's been busy working on the terminal design. We're in schematic design now, and it seems appropriate, given where we're at in the process, for them to update you on where the design is at and show you a little bit about what we've been working on and what they've been working on. So I've heated up. I think it's up to you guys now. And off you go.
Right. Well, thank you, Mike. I'm going to share my screen and share a presentation, of course, that we prepared for today. That should be coming up now. So yeah, thank you for having us today. We're really excited to share this update with you. Hopefully a little more sunshine than the other. At least there's more images in this presentation, so that should count. Yeah, so we'll go through a couple of things, but it's really all about kind of sharing where the design has taken us since we last met, which was end of October. At that point, we were coming out of concept design and programming, so it was really a lot of blocking and stacking and looking at numbers, and now we've really had a chance to work with the airport to develop the design, the massing, some of the materiality, and we'll dive a little bit into what the courtyard design is and then how that translates into the interior as well. So Alan will take us through that, but before that, I want to give a kind of a brief introduction. Mike already mentioned it. We're kind of at the tail end of schematic design. So out of the three main phases that we're currently in schematic design, then we'll go into design development, finally construction documents. We have gone through kind of review of multiple concepts. Like I said, we are working continuously with the airport and kind of developing the design as we go. In about a week and a half, we're submitting a final SD schematic design, and so we're in the middle of kind of packaging that up, putting the final touches on. But also we're working through the cost validation for this phase. So that's the one thing that we will not be able to share with you today. Of course, it's always been, front of our mind to make sure that we design to budget. But the validation is always a kind of an important and lengthy process. So just wanted to let you know. Also wanted to maybe say that, and Alan, I'll leave it up to you, but if anyone has questions during the presentation, feel free to speak up and we can talk about it. But hopefully there's some time at the end as well. So quickly looking at what we looked at last time on the 30th of November. there was this concept that we all selected, well, you selected, and we thank you for that. So this was really about the central gate lounge and kind of bringing the courtyard, as we call it, kind of south towards the land side, and then still organizing the check-in, the TSA kind of on purple that you see on the right, and then backclaim in salmon on the left around the gate lounge. So really making that kind of a focal point. You can kind of see this list of program spaces. So we've got our concourse level. Again, this is a single level for passengers. They come in on the land side, which is at the bottom of the page, and they don't need to go up and down stairs to get to their boarding bridges and to get to the planes after that. And the benefit of having the airfield a level lower than the land side is obviously to accomplish that, but then we also have some space on the apron level. So this is really where our kind of back of house spaces are. We're not going to focus too much on that today, but just want to reiterate that we understand that this is just as important to the operations of the airport as the things that the passengers actually see. And real quick, this was a breakdown of the cost estimate that we shared last time. So this is the thing that we're validating, and we'll be able to see even in more detail than the categories here to see which ones are potentially coming in a little lower, which ones might be coming in a little higher. And then we'll work with the airport and with you to figure out where we best spend our money. So as I mentioned, Alan is going to take us through the design update. And I also said that we are working continuously with the airport. So the renderings that you're going to see, there might be some pieces that are shown in one are missing in others. And Alan, the best we can point that out. I'll mention one, which is the crosswalk, which is kind of a late development. We used to have 2 crosswalks on either side of the building. We've now consolidated into one to increase safety for passengers crossing the drive aisles, but also more focus on the courtyard. Alan's going to talk about it, and that may not show on all the renderings. So just to if you see anything, feel free to point it out, but the best we can, we'll note that as well. And with that, Alan, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you'll just let me know when to switch slides.
Great. Thank you, Bart. Next slide. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be able to share this with you. The team has really been going into a lot of effort to bring the design up. And thanks to all of you for all your input and the visioning and all the elements that we've been going through to bring it to a state where we are now to share with you at a schematic level. Some of the things that started off very early on that came from all of you through visioning and the community and their involvement and the users was really making a sense of place, that it's about the Monterey Peninsula, allowing something that's really warm and welcoming, allowing lots of daylight into the facility, bringing nature into the facility so you can actually see inside and out. This idea about hospitality and serving all customers, all that use it, all that work there, to really serve all levels, and just an amazing, excellent passenger experience and simple wayfinding, and the views that are available not only out towards the trees and the gardens, but out towards the aircraft and the airfield, and really getting this all to come together. So again, thank you all for all of your input to this point. What you're seeing on this first image is basically the main courtyard garden. So you are basically standing at about in the parking lot area where there would be short-term parking, long-term parking. you'd be able to park here and cross over. And as Bart just mentioned, there in the design now will be a central walkway that'll be slightly raised so that it's very safe and bringing people right into the central courtyard that you're seeing in this rendering. And then you will be able to go towards ticketing that is on the right-hand side, or go to the left if you're picking somebody up that's coming from baggage level. And you're seeing the curb edge right there where the cars are, where people will be able to stop, park, drop off people, pick up people along the way, along the canopy edges on the main massing of the building. This is a kind of bird's eye aerial. We're up above the on the land side over the main parking area, looking down towards the mass of the building. You can again see the central courtyard as it carves out, and the building surrounds that courtyard, taking in the views and having that inside outside feel. You can see the 5 aircraft, the attached aircraft that are right over there on the apron side. And the idea of this very simple building, elegant building that actually you do not change levels at all. Once you get out of your car or vehicle or being dropped off, you go through ticketing and go through your processing, go into the centralized lounge that we'll see in just a moment, and actually wait then to go to your gate, or you can be right at your gate and go right out to the aircraft, never changing a level. It's just this very simple way of coming to the aircraft and also coming off the aircraft and processing back through to get your bags and come back to transportation. You never change a level in this airport. We're looking now on the air side. You can see the aircraft there with the gates that are attaching to the main concourse level. We're going to get into some interior views that'll show how that looks and how that feels. But again, very, very simple connections. The idea about getting daylight and views out towards the airfield, towards the aircraft. No matter where you are in the building, you're able to see all the way through and see not only from the garden side, but also see all the way through out to the aircraft side. So there's this amazing connection, visual connection from anywhere you are in the airport, whether you're on the land side, in the middle of the building, or on the air side.
And Alan, maybe worth noting that we are still pursuing LEED Platinum for this project, so that's an admirable goal. And to get there, daylight and views are really important. So that's sort of a key element in our design process, is to ensure we've got views for passengers, but also daylight even into the deeper areas of the space, which is what that clear story is helping to provide.
Thank you, Bart. And before you leave this slide, one thing I want to mention too on the image, it's kind of hard to see, but on the right-hand side, the last gate on the right-hand side of the overall image, there's a little carve-out area there, and that's the outside terrace. So you'll be able to go outside once you go through security, go into process through, and you'll be able to actually go out there on the deck and look back out towards the aircraft and watch them land and taxi in and take off. So we're going to go through kind of a series of journeys. We're going to start with a passenger that's departing and going out to the aircraft as they go from parking to check-in, through security, the gate lounge, and ultimately to depart on the aircraft. So again, kind of the first approach as you're coming up, this is coming in from a vehicle coming around, and you'll see the main building as you start to take the access point towards the curbside. You see the glazed area. The first element you're seeing, that's going to be the ticketing area, where people will be able to go through ticket, drop their bags, and begin the process to go through TSA. You can see the large carve out again. That's the main courtyard that everything is organized around for views and daylight and nature. And you can see, as Bart mentioned, the raised roof above all the main mass of the building. That's the clear story that goes all the way around the main parts of the building to let daylight deep into all the spaces of the project.
And then, Ellen, maybe worth noting here as well is you see the arrows kind of pointing in 2 directions. So what we developed with input from the airport, of course, is a separate curb for the MST, for shuttles, and for ride shares. That's going to be kind of on the left here. And then the curb in front of the terminal is going to be maximized for personal vehicle use, passengers.
So same exact vista point that we just were, that was during the day. This is an evening shot to show how much the building with the glazing and the inside out will glow. It's a very welcoming, warm building. You'll see the materials in a moment as we start to walk into the building. But this idea about woods, warm colors, very inviting, and the garden being the highlight right in the middle. So once you've arrived at the airport, whether you've parked or come by a shuttle or somebody's dropping you off, the first thing you do is to process through ticketing, dropping your bag, or heading over to TSA. So this is the first area that you're going to be seeing. Again, as we mentioned, the idea about mass timber, the construction of the building, bringing in wood into the facility, you start to see that raised roof with the clear story that actually brings daylight deep into the space. All the materials that you're seeing are very durable materials, but the main structure of the building is a mass timber building that'll actually express and expose the wood. So as you're coming into the project, you'll feel a very warm and welcoming scale of the overall project.
And then in the distance, you can see that connection to the courtyard here as well. That's going to be a recurring theme in this journey.
What we've done in this view you're seeing now, we've just gone through ticketing and bag drop. We've come out of TSA, we've gone through security, and we're just coming out of security, and you come to the main gate lounge. This is an area that all passengers can use. This is a place where you can actually sit, do work if you have time before your flight's taking off. You can see the central area with the kind of the oval light spaces that are right above that. That's the idea for food service, that there can be a bar there, but there can be food that you can get in this area also. A lot of different options for seating and arrangements that you'll be able to look towards the left and look back out towards that garden courtyard. You can still see your friends, family, if they are still waiting there to wave goodbye to you as you are waiting for your aircraft. And to the right-hand side, you can start to see that glazed area, the lower glazed area. That's looking right out towards the airfield and to all the aircraft. So from this point where you've just gone through TSA, you're relaxing, you're getting set to go on your aircraft, you can sit here and you can see many of the aircraft from this point. And in essence, you could be sitting here and be called to the gate, and this was your place to wait to go to the aircraft. There will be seats that are going to be at each of the gates, but a smaller number, not the normal you would see at most airports. Because of the scale of this airport, you can actually have a lot of great seating right in the middle, this centralized lounge with all these amenities, and looking right out towards the aircraft and being called out to your gate, and never miss that. So it's this idea of bringing in daylight, gathering opportunities for workplaces and also for food in this one area.
I have a question.
Yes.
They asked us to wait to the end.
Oh, they did. I heard just the opposite.
Oh.
Yeah.
I suggested just ask them as we're at the
Okay.
slide.
Okay. Sure.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I wrote it down. Don't worry.
Okay. And we'll be able to
I'll
come
ask
back
you in a little bit.
Okay, we'll be able to come back to any of these slides if we want to focus on a slide for questions.
Absolutely.
So where you're seeing in a view right now, we've left the main lounge and we're headed down to the furthest gate, which is gate 5. Again, all these gates are attached to all the aircraft. You've walked down to this area. There's amenities along the way, including restrooms. There'll be opportunities for concessions as you go through here. And this is the last kind of hold area where you've got some seating. You've got some seating along the window, so you can look out towards the airfield and towards the aircraft and wait to be brought onto your gate. So what you're seeing here right off to the immediate left is kind of the idea of these really welcoming gateways to gate 4 and gate 5. We're going to be working on these really beautiful, simple elements. And again, the expression of the mass timber of the structure, you can see that this is all going to be expressed overall. The surfaces, as people are moving along and bringing their bags down there, these are all terrazzo hard surface areas, so that this can be a blend of beautiful materials and colors, but it's something that lasts for a very, very long time. It's almost indestructible, if you will, for a material. Terrazzo is used in many airports around the world. And once it's in place, and it will last for decades to come. So we're now going to take the journey of a passenger as an arriving passenger coming off the aircraft and moving back out ultimately to ground transportation. So again, we are coming off that gate we were just looking at, gate 5, the furthest gate, and you come off of the aircraft, off the boarding bridge, and you start to look down the main central concourse, and you start to head down this concourse. It draws you towards the centralized lounge that we were looking at just a moment ago. And once you've gone, what we've done, we've kind of bypassed going through that centralized lounge, but all passengers will go through or go by that centralized lounge. They'll be able to look out towards the overall courtyard, look out towards the aircraft, and then they will come through and enter into the overall baggage claim area. And again, the idea about bringing in lots of daylight, a raised structural element above here. This is all the mass timber, giving you a high space. And then the baggage claim area, and then looking back out towards that central courtyard and seeing out towards cars that may be picking you up, waiting for you, or vans that are waiting for you, or possibly going out to a car that's parked in the parking lot. Again, never having to change a level in the process, in the journey, whether you're departing or arriving passenger. And then once you've picked up your bags, you walk out through baggage area, you come right back out towards that centralized garden. So you can start to see people maybe waiting for you. You can see your friends, your family, and then go right to the curbside and be picked up, or continue on and go to a van or vehicle that may be taking you to a destination that you're seeing in the Monterey Peninsula area, or head out to your car in short-term or long-term parking. And then we're going to look at the courtyard itself and the gate lounge and give you some ideas about kind of how that's developing. Again, that centralized courtyard, we started off with the first slide. As you look at that, again, the building is organized around this beautiful courtyard. If you are in the courtyard, you can see there will be lots of opportunity for seating. There'll be landscape planting areas that will actually be able just to sit out in this courtyard. It's exposed to the southern sun, so it gets a lot of great daylight. It'll be warm and inviting, and you can see where people are sitting. If you look towards the right in this image, that higher level glass area, that is looking right into that lounge we talked about, where you'll be able to see departing passengers. And if you want to, wave one last time to somebody that's taking off, you'll be able to be right there and be part of that. Or this can be used for events that might be able to be part of the overall area. The community can use this space. This is all landside, so it's not secure, and because you will go through security, but once you're in this area, you actually are just coming off of a parking area. It's non-secure for all folks to use. And then looking again a little bit more into the lounge area, we talked about this being the centralized space, where they'd be called to your gate, areas for food and for drink and for, working on your laptop or phone, a very large open space that actually gives you views out towards the courtyard or views back out towards the aircraft. It's a very, welcoming, warm, hospitable place that will really allow you to spend your time that you need while you wait for your aircraft, and always feel comfortable in this space, because you'll be able to see most of the aircraft as you're sitting here, to know that you're being called to the gate. Or if you want to be near the gate, there are seats that are nearby the gate to you, so you could go down to your gate if you wished. And then looking at the idea about courtyard connection, again, the outside, the land side, where you see the outside gardens, you see the seating areas, and this idea that it flows into kind of through the glass visually, looking at the bar we talked about, the dining areas, that it's an inside outside kind of design. So you're looking at, on the overall outside area for the courtyard, those are hard surfaces, but a lot of landscape and seating opportunities. And then once you're inside on the air side, you're secure. There's also the idea that we're developing right now, the food service areas, the bar, the seating areas that are different kinds of heights, organization. And we've got it sized to deal with the vast majority of seats that are needed to go to the aircraft. So this, we feel quite comfortable in this space. And looking at hard surface and a mixture of carpet and hard surfaces here, easy to maintain, cleanable spaces where the food might be. And then we may be introducing some carpet tiles in this area to be able to soften some of the seating areas. And then kind of a cutaway, in this view, which you're seeing, we've taken the roof off the building and we're looking down in that area. We're just talking about the lounge and the courtyard. So you start to see some of the opportunities that we're studying. There could be some indoor planters, the idea of rocks or pebbles. They may or may not be loose. We're dealing with kind of how do we make sure that those stay in place and are easy to maintain. The idea about booth seating, different kinds of seating for people that might want to have a larger meal that's more prepared, or versus folks that are just grabbing a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever. Different opportunities for different people to actually cluster in spaces and sit. We're looking at possibility of some screens, kind of open screens that maybe divide a space into more dining versus the kind of more open lounge. So we'll be working on that as we go through, and are very interested in your comments about all of that. And then you can start to see as it looks at the wooden beams that are going all the way across there out towards where the aircraft sit, you'll be able to see all the wood structure that's all going to be expressed, and all the daylight that will come into this space and really flood this with some beautiful daylight during the day. And then we want to turn it over to any questions that you have, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions. So thank you for the time to share that with you.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to the public for comments, questions.
Jean, you're muted. Your hand is raised.
Jean Roush, would you like to comment, questions?
Thank you. Thank you. The design looks great, a lot of good work, and this isn't a comment totally on point, so I apologize. But the community is wondering about the liability to the public if the bond payments aren't made. And if somebody could get me that information, I'd appreciate it. It was brought up at the meeting of the Neighborhood Presidents Association that's done with the mayor. I doubt anyone brought that question to you, but it's out there in the public. And if I could help answer that for them, I would be very open to doing so if you can get the information. It looks like a beautiful design. Carry on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to open with Director Gagliotti.
I'm just curious about the food prep area. How big is that? How big are we kind of envisioning?
Where is it?
For the food prep area, there's a dedicated enclosed food prep area that's about 400 square feet. We're sizing it still and working with how we might lay that space out and making sure that we get that to be the right size. If you think about, so you can see where it says food prep up there, that's approximately 350 to 400 square feet in that space. We're going to be looking through that to make sure we get the right size and get that organized. And the way the image you're seeing right now, the way the bar could work because of its scale and size, that there's a number of elements that could actually happen to deal with food preparation, small refrigerators, sinks, other kinds of food preparation that actually the bar itself might be able to take and deal with as you're serving certain levels of food types, higher level of dishwashing and dealing with elements that would need the enclosed room where we've got approximately, again, about 350 to 400 square feet.
Yeah, and I would just add the process to ensure that we've got sufficient space for equipment, but also sufficient electrical and mechanical supply is working through a process with at least a potential concessionaire and understanding the type of food service, what the process is of plating it, delivering it. So we will be refining this as Alan said, but I guess at a high level, that's where we are at this point.
And the team has met with our restaurant operator,
I was gonna ask
and
that,
those
but
meetings will continue, so.
that's
Good.
Is that it? Okay, Director Pick.
Yep, thank you. Great presentation. To start with the positive, just before I dive into questions, the design looks wonderful. The windows, the light, the wood, the design of the courtyard all looks really, really elegant and impressive. I had a question about the restaurant food service answered. Thank you. Oversized baggage. We have so many golfers coming in here. Is that going to be an element of the baggage claim area?
Yes, it will be for that. Also in processing and when you're first checking in your bags, will be designed to allow for those kinds of items. And also when you're retrieving at the other end as you're leaving, you'll be able to get access to golf bags. And we're dealing with our designers right now on the baggage systems to make sure that we allow for those oversized. And we understand today the way the baggage systems work that golf bags are so common now that most systems just kind of as baseline are able to serve that. But we will definitely have that, and then also allowing for larger things that maybe somebody brought a surfboard or whatever. So we're beginning to look into all those.
Terrific.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
this is an image of the backclimb area, obviously, but you can see the carousel, and as Alan pointed out, the width of the belt and the turns all accommodate typical size golf bags, so that's not an issue. And then from this view behind you would be kind of a straight outfeed belt for oversized bags, like Alan said, surfboards or things that might be delicate or things like that. So that's not shown in this image, but it is part of that space. Yeah.
Great. Thank you both. As to multimodal transportation, it sounds like that lane that breaks off to the left that will take shuttles could be used also for public transportation. Is that something we're looking at?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. We've got a dedicated space for MST, the bus stop, and then we've got some spaces for shuttles. We're looking at like holding spaces for additional shuttles, not necessarily all directly in front of the terminal, and then generally perhaps where the crosswalk is on the right is the majority of the ride share, and on the left is public transportation and shuttles.
Terrific. Thank you. And then finally, I know we're not prepared to discuss cost today, but it definitely piques my curiosity what this will cost us. It looks wonderful and look forward to better understanding that. Thank you.
We'd love to share that when we have that information.
We'd love to see how your pencil gets sharpened. Director Miller.
Thank you. Very nice presentation. It's good to visualize something like this. So I had just a couple quick questions. The ticket counter, were they going to be permanently assigned, or were we thinking having the ability of different airlines to share that space?
We're not prepared to recommend yet, but the building itself lends itself very well to a common use strategy where.
Yeah, and that's the impression I got when I saw that, which has been very successful in some airports.
It has. It is very functional. It uses the infrastructure that you build much more efficiently because you can do more things with the same space. So you look at even in the gate area where we have the call to gate central corridor or central area to seat. anyone could sit there and then an airline could pull up to gate 2 or gate 4 and just make the announcement for United Airlines at gate 4. So it really functions well as a common use strategy.
I think for us and, you know, where space limitations here, that makes the most sense. But I'm just curious, how do airlines feel about that? Because they can't really brand like they do their gates that their
Yeah.
ticket counters that they have now
Yeah,
with us.
when you walk through some of the newer airports, you will see that they use a screen
Right.
to brand.
Mhm.
And in a common use strategy, just the ability to plug in, put your brand up there for the time period that you're using the gate, and then have it go either dark or to our logo when it's not in use, is becoming quite the norm. It's exactly what you saw at Payne Field when you were there.
Right.
And it really does give us the ability to better utilize the square footage. You know, this is a 60,000 square foot building, a little less than 60,000 of passenger space, passenger experience. If we continue to grow,
Yeah.
you're going to need to manage the asset really well to make that growth happen. And you can, by doing that, you can forestall any additions to the building that you might have to do in the future, because you can make the building more efficient. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good way for us to look, but we're not prepared to give you that recommendation.
Well, it makes perfect sense. So thank you for looking into that. How many seats in the lounge area, and then how many seats at the gate?
Or do you have the latest numbers on our layout for that?
Yeah, the lounge area is about 8,000 square feet. So we've calculated the required area by looking at what each gate would need individually. And then what we are allowed to do, because all the passengers sit together, is take a discount. Because if you have a gate lounge at each gate, you just end up with a lot of unused seats. And when you go with this approach, there's no feeling like I don't want to sit at gate 3 because my plane is going to go out of gate 4. So I think we're looking currently at over 200 seats in this area. And this image just shows kind of a variety of seats. We are looking, as we kind of lay out the seats, and maybe I should go to the interior plan, to make sure that we do have the quantity that we need, but also the variety that we'd like to provide. So for Alan's point, we're looking at maybe some formal dining, maybe there's some lounge seating, some cafe seating, bar seating.
I think it says 218 on that little picture.
Your eyes are
Yeah.
much better than mine.
I think it's 218.
And then mine, but that sounds right. Yeah, and then you can see that we've got some seats here. Oh, I should point here. Now this is an area that we've kind of set aside for potential expansion of the TSA area. So we don't count those towards the required gate seating, but there is additional area there. And then, like Ellen pointed out, and I should go to a view that shows that we are providing some, let's say, convenience seating near some of the furthest gates. I mean, it's a small airport, but you can kind of see in this view, sort of at the end here, there is some seating, and then along the curtain wall, between the gates, we're providing some seating just to work between the queuing, but also provide this great opportunity for people to sit and look out onto the airfield. But the central gate lounge is really where all the required, per the standard seating is, and then we've got some supplemental seating. So I hope that answered your question without giving kind of a specific number. I mean, more than 200 in the central, and then additional seating throughout the concourse.
How many seats, Chris, do you know we have right now? You knew that, didn't you? You just knew that.
I was trying to go through my head, and we've added so many. I asked that I take a rain check on that number and go back and look.
Okay,
All right, sorry.
thank you. Just a couple more questions here. The length of the sky bridges, I mean, it looks awfully long. Maybe that's just, I'm just curious. Are they about normal length or,
I think in reality, I think in our rendering, they may be longer than they actually will be in this rendering. So I think it's a very good comment about that. They will, as always, they're adjustable, of course, depending on the aircraft that's
Right.
parking at the gates. But I think in the rendering you're seeing, they're probably larger or longer than they would normally be.
And then they need to be so that's a good point. In the renderings there was some artistic freedom taken in placing the planes. We're working with our consultant Aero to ensure at a minimum we've got the right length for ADA, because there is a maximum slope that you're allowed, 1 in 12. You're allowed to go down to the plane from the concourse. So that's kind of critical for gate 1. And then for the remainder of the gates, we're keeping them as short as possible, and like Alan said, shorter than what's shown here. We can come back with maybe a technical review and give you those exact numbers.
and refresh my memory on the gate numbering. Is it right to left or left to right?
Well, in this view, we're calling 1 the one on the right, but to be honest, it could be A through E. We haven't quite gone through that with the airport, what the right designation is. So we're just calling them 1 through 5 because we've got 5, and it's really a placeholder at this point.
And you know, at this point, I'd just like to put in my vote for glass sky bridges, if that's at all possible.
I
But
don't think you'll find any opposition here.
okay.
You got the budget for it?
I know, that's always the question. Do we have the money? And I really do like the glass that goes out onto the airfield. That's a very nice touch to open up the whole airport. And let's see, I do have one more question. What are you factoring in for future expansions? You talked about the expansion of TSA. But what about to the building itself? I know we are a little disappointed that we lost our community room up on the top floor. But should we find extra money? I mean, are you doing anything different that would allow for future expansion here?
Currently, the design is to allow for horizontal expansion of the building. And maybe I'll leave it to Mike and Chris to what extent you want to go into that.
Sure, no, that's fine. The way they've designed it, the concourse itself on this graphic can be expanded to the left for 3 more gates or 2. I think it's,
Well,
yeah. 1 more
yeah,
gate left.
we've got one more gate until we hit the run
Got it.
positions, but depending on the development, of course, in the future of that, right, there's a way to change that.
Then on the right-hand side, they've made space for expansion, which right now is targeted at a future FIS facility, customs.
Okay,
So that'll be on the right-hand side. You can see the grassy knoll there.
yes.
That ultimately would be the expansion of the building for FIS, or if you chose not to go with FIS, future gates.
Very good. Thank you.
And I did want to just comment on the glass boarding bridges. They're obviously expensive, but what we're looking at is kind of as a below the line item is potentially adding some windows to the boarding bridges. So we need to see how the cost estimate pans out, but that might be a way to kind of provide some daylight and some orientation for passengers without having to spend, you know, the amount of money that a glass boarding bridge would require. So that's something we're looking into.
One of the few times that my staff and the architects are in disagreement, we very much like to try to make those glass. They're about $200,000 more per. So you're, about $1 million difference between the typical boarding bridge and and the glass that we've seen. So we'll keep working at it.
Yeah. Are these gates going to be branded towards Pacific Airlines like we have now? Or will they be common use?
No, again, we're not prepared to recommend, but the building itself from the interior lends itself very well to a common use strategy. So we wouldn't brand the gates themselves. We'd have electronic branding that could be switched. And the jet bridges, because we wouldn't be branding each gate, would be our property but operated by the airlines, so we could tell them which gate they're going to use that day. It's a little bit more of a lift for the operations team, but it gives us a lot of flexibility.
How many gates do you envision us using at any one given time? It's doubtful we would be using all 5 at one time, right? Or
Probably not on a regular basis, but certainly on an irregular basis.
yeah.
Right now, midday, you'll see it in an hour and a half. You'll see 4. sitting
Okay.
Out there.
And I know if somebody is loading at one, then they have to go to a different gate just to park if they're landing.
Yeah, what we do today is kind of a blend between common use and dedicated gates. We can ask them to use another gate, but obviously they're all grounded there pretty well. So American has the gates on the west end.
United on the,
Yeah, and
on
for
the
us
east.
to say to American, you've got to go over to the east end, it's not physically possible from a technology standpoint to do that right now. So giving ourselves that flexibility is really key. If you have an aircraft that mechanicals at the gate, and we do have those, it's very easy to work around if you have a common use strategy. If not, then it's a little bit more difficult.
I bring it up because maybe we do a mixture, a hybrid of glass ones and a couple that are not, that we don't tend to use that often. I don't know if money becomes a factor, but I just throw it out there. Thank you. I didn't mean to monopolize so much time. It's a great presentation, great rendering of what this is going to look like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Sani?
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to echo everybody's comments. It feels very warm. I like the scale. I like the in and out and how it flows just from a visual perspective. I kind of would like to go, I took notes and I've got lots of them as we went through. Some of my questions have been answered by my fellow board members. Page 5, I believe, the total enclosed is like 58,000. And then the covered on enclosed, is that the cantilevered plus what is underneath, or what is that 25, the almost 26,000?
Yeah, the covered unenclosed is all on the apron level, so on the level below the non-passenger level. And you can kind of see the areas in white here. So there are types of activities that don't need to be within a conditioned space, like the tugs picking up the bags from the carousels or dropping bags off at the in-feed lines. So we can save some money by not enclosing and conditioning that space. So that's what covered and enclosed is. You're kind of protected from the rain, which means we do still provide, of course, lighting, security, PA, things like that. But you don't have to condition it. So that saves some
Thank
space.
you for clarifying. I thought
Yeah.
it was what was underneath and kind of the operations and the support of all the logistics that go on.
Yeah, and in the enclosed, we do have some enclosed spaces on the apron level. So we do have an enclosed mechanical space. We've got, you can see the EDS room where TSA is checking the bags, inspecting the bags potentially. And then we've got the operation center and kind of airline support spaces, some ramp support functions that will be enclosed as well.
Okay. And then I was looking at the numbers, the 56 million versus the 83 million. and the 27 million delta. I mean, that's almost half of the original or where we were at with the 56. So at some point, we're going to have to make some hard choices, or we're also looking for additional funding, I know, and opportunities there. Could someone speak to that a bit?
Start with the 83 is what was approved at the last board meeting when we went through this exercise and revised and took out some of the components. So that is the number. That's the not to exceed number. The 56 is the total direct, and then you have indirect costs. You have escalation in here right now. They have not picked materials. So those are all factored into that 83 not to exceed. And when they start to go, first they're going to validate this component and make sure it's within that 83. And then they'll start to pick materials and then start to do design documents. And some of those contingencies that are in there will go away and get better defined.
Mhm.
So that's what the difference is right now. But the number of 83 is what we are working towards and what we've been approved to work towards.
Okay. Okay. So that's our new number essentially. And then the parking lots and some of the outside things are not included in that. That is pretty much terminal building. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. And I know that, we're working through things ultimately. Again, just really like the concept, liked how open it was. You mentioned there was no level change, and I'm looking at the jet bridges, and I know before we had questions about using an elevator to get to them. Are the jet bridges completely on, I mean, right where right where the restaurant is, for lack of a better word?
Yes,
For
it's a great
ticketing?
question, but that's a great question. That's exactly right. So once you process through and you're in this overall central lounge, basically you're walking straight out towards a gate where the bridges are that you saw in that rendering just a moment ago, and you just walk right onto that bridge, and then they will of course have a slight ramp to them as they're headed down to the sill, depending on the size of the aircraft. They'll be at different angles, but in essence, you walk right off of that lounge area, go right to the gate, and start to make your journey towards the aircraft.
And I forget that the bottom, we do have a lower level. So that makes sense that we are a little higher up. So that's great for many people, and certainly is wonderful for ADA compliance, as well as just being very open and accessible for everybody that is in our community with that. There are still a couple elevators on site, or did we, I think there was one, is that correct? Just to
Yes.
clarify.
Yes.
We have two at this point. So we're showing, and I'll use this plan maybe to kind of point it out, but we have an elevator on, let's say, the ticketing side. That's going to be used to both get potentially oversized like bikes or maybe animals down to the apron level. It's going to be used by employees to go up and down from the apron to the concourse level, and potentially, like in those irregular operations, passengers could use that and the stairs to go down to the apron level if you needed to use some of the RON positions for boarding. And then on the other side, on the back claim side, we also have an elevator, again, to bring some of those unusual, like animals or bikes, up to the back claim area. And also just to provide kind of an employee vertical circulation on that side. So on both sides of the building, there is a way for employees to go up and down, and then on one side near the check-in, potentially for passengers.
Thank you for that clarification. Looking at the kitchen, and I appreciate it, sounds like you're working with, restaurateurs or our current one here too. 400 square feet seems quite small when I consider refrigerators and things like that, but I'll leave that to the expertise and how all the logistics would work for that. I love the design of it. I think it really is great to provide that, and I think that is critical to our community as well. I think to, so many people, especially now with Woody's where it is, and that is not through 2ESA. So we have a lot of locals that enjoy that, but as well as, people that are flying through. But I think that is a great service and something that I, as one director, am going to be very supportive and want to see. I also want to acknowledge how much this reminds me of Payne Field, just the intimacy and the flow and the ability to move around. It doesn't feel like an airport. And I personally really like that. It's got a community space to it. I value you creating separate parts and having, what did you call it? The dividers, that can
Right.
maybe move
The
around.
screens.
The screens, things like that. I think I think there's a lot of benefit. And, again, what is in fad today may not be in 20 years. And yet we'll be utilizing this space in terminal for long after, we've looked at this design at this point. The brightness of the light is wonderful too. My family lives in a clear story. My parents have a beautiful clear story, and it makes such a difference even on a foggy day. They're in Minnesota, Minneapolis, so on a winter day as well. So it can really change how bright and light a place can be. So I was really glad to see that addition and just your utilization of the clear stories ultimately.
Great. Thank you.
I had the jet bridges too. I think Carl has answered most of that. Public input. We had public input, and I don't know if it was ever disseminated. Did we get a document on what the public really wanted? Or I know there were boards and I see the warmth and the hospitality and the flow that I think was some of the feedback. Will there be any more times that we will look at public input?
Alan, I can speak to that one if you want. If you let us get to our next presentation, we have some information in there that we'll be able to provide you.
Okay, I appreciate that. The rooftop deck, I know I, as one, was very disappointed to learn that we can't have that community space ultimately. I don't know if as one director, it'd be interesting to see if we could even maybe do a community garden, or if there's any way as you look at that cantilever in space, and if it's something that we could maybe not do right away, but have as a phase 2 or consider something. I think some greenery space that's becoming quite common, especially in California. And again, nothing too tall. We're not going to look at trees because we've got planes coming in, but some green space, some sort of garden. I think that would even fit with our roots in so many ways as being salad bowl capital of the world. Cypress tree. I don't know. I didn't see a cypress tree in the design, and I know that that's so iconic to us. I don't know if that's something that your design team has considered. And Evital, is there design plans for that in this?
The electric vertical takeoff and landing.
Yes.
It's not
Uh,
in plan, but it is in the planning process as we discuss the electrical components for the area. There will be looking at upsizing the electrical capacity so that we can handle that on the east end should that come up.
On the east end would be,
That way.
okay, so that could be one of the additional places.
We're designing for it, but it is not part of the design.
Understand. I just want to make sure that there certainly is a placeholder for it. And then we haven't decided what wood we're using. Is that correct? And that's in conversation. And I'm
Cypress.
I think that might be
That'd be the
protected.
tree you want.
Bamboo, maybe.
I have a lot of pine I could offer right now
Yeah.
out of my driveway.
I think the maintenance, I'm just looking at the maintenance of it because there is so much of it and it's tall and things like that. So just, I appreciate the design. I appreciate all that has gone into it. I'd like to hear from staff a little bit about what they really like about it, or I assume you guys have looked at this and been involved in creating it too. So I want to close with, I like the circular at the front and I like the circle in the food area, the food court too. It just really allows for flow and for kind of camaraderie and, you know, conversations too. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, this is all beautiful, but then we have a lot of, I'm gonna call them ugly structures we're required to put, like TSA places. So how do you incorporate those in and make them look lovely? When you spent so much money on a design like this?
I'll let the architects incorporate that. That's that.
So, I'll try to give some answer to that, and maybe Bart will have some thoughts about it too. But to your point, there are a lot of elements that will be in this facility, TSA elements that are through processing and security. What we've tried to do in the design is to make it as flexible as possible, that, you know, the strength of the overall design, the taller ceilings, the wood structure, all those elements really are kind of the focus and the beauty of the place. And as you move through and see other elements going through TSA, we'll be working with TSA as we lay all those out to make sure that those are placed in a space as we are looking for, that there are portals and gateways that really frame the way passengers move through it. That things are very organized and wayfinding is very straightforward, and the materials again are simple and durable. So the team is beginning to place those items. There's lots of things like waste receptacles and recycle and all those bins and things. We're beginning to design those elements too. What does that look like in the overall central space in the lounge area? We want to make sure that that's all designed in, so that there's just not a lot of elements that are just kind of, you know, in the middle of the space and not thoughtful and how they integrate to the overall design.
Okay, great. I look at these and they're gorgeous, and I'm like, yeah, you put a big blue bin with, recycle here. It kind of takes away from what you just did. Flooring. I think you talked about carpeting under the lounge area. And I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
doesn't that just create a nightmare for our maintenance people, because people spill food and they spill drinks and they're not very careful?
Yeah, they generally lose their sense of cleanliness when they leave the house.
Yeah.
We've had that discussion. We've asked the architects to go back and see what they can come up with other than carpet. But the carpet element does help in a number of areas. It softens the area, softens the building a little bit, helps with acoustics. Finding an alternative to that may be a bit of a challenge, but we understand what you're saying. It's preference
I
would be
mean,
none, but I'm not sure we're going to get away.
I mean, one thing, Mike and I've had this conversation, because having been in a wheelchair for a long time, it's harder to push on carpeting. But on the other hand, if you're walking and you're unstable, it's a feeling of comfort, because it gives you a better place to put your feet. You don't feel like you're going to slip. And I'm telling you, from a handicapped person, it's a visual thing. And it's also the possibility of slipping. So I just throw that out there from having experienced it pretty much. But the carpet under, so I'm going to say, I mean, when you come in this door here, and in our doors, you see right away where the bag, everybody pulls a bag. So you see just where all the bag tracks are. So if we could have, I don't care what it is, stone or whatever it's going to be in the arrival and the departure where they're
Yes.
pulling
Yeah.
their bags. But it seemed to me when I looked at the long concourse that area could actually have the carpet, because by then they should have knocked all the dirt off of their wheels. And not, I mean, seriously, there won't be such a track, it would seem. So I'm just throwing that, if you wanted to have two different kinds of flooring or whatever, it just seemed to me, I would never put carpeting under my dining room table or under my kitchen table. That's just not, it's too much to keep up. And so I was thinking, I don't know why we'd put it there, but
That's a challenge.
Yeah, I get it.
And maybe to add kind of a note on the type of carpet. So this would not be like a high pile wall to wall type of carpet. We would be looking at commercial carpet, that's very resistant to wear and tear. Carpet tiles that you could clean, and worst case scenario replace single tiles. And so that's kind of the type of material that we're looking at. It's we still hear all the concerns, and like Mike said, we're working through addressing those. But I just want to make sure we've got the kind of the right image in our head when we talk about carpet.
Yeah, I mean, we have tiles here and we've replaced them, and I see where they curl up along the edges, and I see where they get the heavy wear. So as a board, we're in and out of here quite a bit, so we see things on a frequent basis and see what works. And carpeting is not cheap. So the art exhibit is one of the things the community loves here. So I just don't know how we're designing that we would still be able to have some type of a community art display, if it would be down in baggage handling, or it would be where the ticketing is.
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out because I mean, the design is beautiful, and I admire architects for making beautiful pictures, but sometimes they're not totally in sync with what the community is used to, which we're going to give up a restaurant that the community can just come into. So it's also seems to me that we need to be a little aware of the fact that the art is one of the things that they love, and it's something our community is known for and embraces. So,
We hear you. We're not at that point in the design yet, but we hear what you're saying.
yeah, well, I think we're getting there.
Yeah, we are.
Because if you put a lot of glass, it's gonna be hard to hang a display. So, bike lockers, I know we don't get very much use for them, but it might also help us get to our lead platinum. So I don't know if we've got a space where we could put a couple.
Can't put bike lockers. TSA will not allow them.
yeah.
They will absolutely not allow them. We can put bike racks, but we will not be able to put lockers because TSA will not allow those. It is an absolute non-starter with TSA.
Okay.
No,
So,
we are planning on bike racks, so there'll be a bike path from the scenic highway to the terminal, and there'll be bike racks. So the lead credits for that can be achieved by the bike racks, as Chris mentioned. So that's in the current site design.
okay. Okay. I know we had two people who wanted bike lockers. I don't know how many years ago, Chris, and we got a grant to do it. And then right away, TSA didn't like them because things changed. So, anyway, just, we are known for our biking around the area. So I think it's important. How far is it from, and I'm not very good with distance, from gate 5 down to baggage claim? Like, how many steps, how many feet, how many?
Art, I don't know if we've got a kind of a dimension right now from the furthest gate coming into baggage claim. I'm trying to recall where it's.
The whole
I think-
building is about 450 feet. So if you go from all the way from one end of the building to the other end, that would be about 450 feet.
How far is that?
Tenth of a mile.
Okay. Okay.
Is that about 1/10 of a mile?
It's about, if you think of city blocks, also city blocks are often 300 to 400 feet long, and a city block in like a city like San Francisco. So it gives you maybe a sense of scale. For well, you might be from the furthest point to the furthest point, you may be walking about a city block like you might see in San Francisco.
Okay. Okay. I just, San Jose is a nightmare if you get off at like Hawaiian Air and then have to walk to baggage claim. You're
Mm.
clocking 3/4 of a mile easy, when you're tired and dragging kids along or whatever. So it's a visual thing. So I don't know how we can make that look like it's less, but that's just one of those things. If you can't see it, it seems like it's not so bad. So,
It's it's a very compact airport, so I think even, you know, you can see that extension and it makes you kind of think perhaps that that's sort of additional length, but when you compare this to other airports, 5 gates, of course, not the 2 at Painfield, it is really compact, so don't think people will feel they're walking for a long distance, and they
well,
don't have
you're designing for lazy people like me. You have to understand.
to put in some moving walks.
We don't want to give people heart attacks like Phoenix. And then one more thing, again, beautiful design, but with all the displays that were required to put, the electronic displays and the things, I guess work with staff as much as possible because those are required and they certainly will take away from the beauty of where they are and how they are. So anyway,
Yeah, we do understand the needs for flight information and advertising and art, and there's a whole package of kind of elements that need to go into it. But we'll integrate it into the design, especially signage and wayfinding and digital information. The intent is to place them, smart locations, so we don't have to hang them off the ceiling. They can be on walls, but be in the right locations, of course. So that's a process we have kind of started. We did look at some concepts for science and wayfinding that you saw in the renderings, and then the next layer of digital wayfinding is kind of the next step.
And it seems like the general lounge area, which I really like the openness of, but it also is going to require some pretty good signage because people are sitting there and they're not watching where a plane is. So they're going to we have to make sure that they can see it from several areas. If that has 218 people in it approximately, and some of it is dining, presumably some of it is not, I think that's something that staff is going to have to work on just so that people aren't taking up dining areas just to sit. Because I know that happens down below. People go sit at those 4 little tables out there and they have no food. They just get there early and stretch out there. And then anybody that gets food is not supposed to take it out of there. And it gets to be kind of, it's not very nice. So I guess if part of it is dining only and it's marked that way, that people know they can't just go lay around for 2 hours because their plane is late, especially on bench seating where it'd be really comfy.
Yeah, management of the space is something that have to work with the airport. That's part of kind of designating it. The intent is that it's all public, publicly available space, and that we provide the right variety. And even though we're providing the seating for all the gates, there are very few times where people for all 5 flights will be at the airport at the same time.
Okay, I was just thinking, I mean, this is design, right? Just thinking out loud of, if people are expecting food, but they can't get the attention of any server because they're in an area where the server is not serving, or somebody's sitting where the server should be serving, but it's a more comfortable seat, or they've got a view, so they take it. And then the restaurant loses money. So I just see it as a possible conflict that maybe if we can kind of think through of how we would,
And I think a lot of that is going to go to what the restaurant wants to be, what the restaurant operator wants. If he wants service, if he wants table service, then we can certainly dedicate a table service area. The other concept is similar to what Beecher's was in Payne, and I hate to keep going back there, but
Yep.
that's what you know. Where you go up, it is fresh, it's fresh made, you take it away and you go find a seat.
it's more like a snack bar, fresh snack bar,
Yeah,
as opposed to a
yeah.
restaurant.
So we'll work with the restaurant operator to see what they want and then we'll build around that.
Okay, okay. So I'm, Lisa?
I also, as we're just kind of talking about, I've been looking the outside space, especially I was down in Santa Barbara and SLO recently and looking, and it was just nice to have outside space, benches and places. So I'm really grateful to see that in this design. Phone rooms, breastfeeding, quiet restroom, yoga rooms, that kind of thing. And I know those are in bigger airports, but I know how tight space is, but I really, maybe even just a couple off of a restroom, if there is any possibility, like to at least see the architects look at it and see if there's any possibility for some of these newer concept rooms. It's quite common in larger airports. And I understand the constraints that we have, but can make a difference too for a family traveling, or even a family restroom can make a difference for, if you've got kids and suitcases and the entourage, essentially, to go with a family ADA accessible bathroom. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Just reminded me, I saw that Santa Barbara was closed and, because they're underwater.
Twice.
Santa Barbara Airport
Right.
is underwater. So,
The first storm that took out all the power here and the most recent one we closed it.
yeah, lovely.
It is a little low there.
Beautiful view.
You got to go up to the school level.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen. We'll look forward to, what, next month, the month after? When's our next, deadline?
I think next month they had something on there.
This
Yeah, we could,
Monday.
Okay, good.
Schematic design submission.
Thank you.
So much
Thank
for
you,
all your
sir.
comments and input. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody, why don't we take 5?
Thank you.
We will have our 10:51. We're back in session and we will have an update on the ramp project.
Yes. So I'm going to start it. Dan Johansson, the project manager, is going to step in here too. I'm going to come up here because once we get the presentation going, I do want to point out a couple things, and you have the presentation in front of you as well. Okay, so the commercial apron construction and then the safety enhancement project update. So if you'll let us get through the first few the slides, that would be really helpful. We really kind of want to sequentially take you to where we're at. And this kind of dovetails to back kind of the questions you had in the previous presentation on the terminal. That area where the aircraft are parking, this is part of this project. So we're building out the apron for the parking of the aircraft and the taxiway reconfiguration in this project, leaving 2 panels short, so about 40 feet short of where the terminal building will be. And that's where that terminal building will then pick up from there and do the remaining, which will be where the foundations will then be for the jet bridges, et cetera, and how it connects. So just setting the stage on those components. And I want to set the stage for those that haven't been through the project and don't live it every day like we do. A little bit of what all the pieces that go with the commercial apron construction. So when we bid it in phases for a couple of reasons. One, for constructability, so that we can still operate and still have functional capacity for all the things that we need to do while they're constructing, but also for cost per FAA. So they were not able to give us all the funding in one grant. So we have about half of it, $20+ million currently to do the construction of phases A and A1. So that's what we're working on now. We have our grant in, waiting for grants to be announced for the next phase because it is based on the bids. It's one contractor. It's a joint venture of Granite Rock Vanguard, joint venture that is doing the project. So it was one bid, one total, but in all of these components, it was bid in by work areas so that we had the ability to get additional dollars as they came. So the first phase in work area A is hatched out here. And you can see underneath here are the former hangars that were here, the former overflow parking that was here. This is our long-term parking here. And then this is where the larger hangars were and the other Del Monte hangars that were up on here. And then the taxiway configuration. So just to orient people to where we're at. Just want to actually also bring a note of the haul route for everything. So there's a large cut that's happening in all of this. About 160,000 cubic yards of dirt will be moved through this project. All the dirt is almost all, little bit will go off site if it's unsuitable, but almost all the dirt is staying on site. And that's what those locations are over here. Those are the locations that we had identified that we could use soil. And the haul route for the project stays on airport. It's the access road down here. They come around, they come back up, and they come over here. And so this was the first location for soil because when we were building the hangars and the ARF apron over here, we borrowed soil from here. So now we're replacing that soil. We knew we were going to have soil in the future. It made no sense to bring any in for the other projects. So we borrowed it and now we're replacing it so that we didn't have to haul in dirt and then haul off dirt during this project. And then other locations for where the soil will go. So just to orient everyone to the project and what it all will be. And now I'm going to hand it over to Dan and he's going to walk you through where we're at.
So, there we go. Whoops, too fast. So just as a brief update, we issued the notice to proceed to Granite Rock on November 30th, and it's based on a calendar day contract. And through today, we've done 46 days of completion. And just some quick facts based on work done as well as payments, we're approximately 8.5% complete, which includes the demo of the hangars that Chris had mentioned, the self-service fuel farm that was over there, the hangar pads that were on there, as well as what we've done, which is unique for us. With this project, we were able to isolate it from air sites. So they built a new perimeter fence, which added to efficiencies for the contractor to get work done and work independently of impacting the aircraft operations area and the airlines in this phase, so they can work independently and at their own pace, which was a huge benefit. In addition to this, we've also had them prep the north side, which Brian will talk about in a little bit, for the RV lot that is going to be the new location for the current RVs across the field that will be used for a fill site for the dirt that's being relocated. Just some quick facts. As of now, we've removed 35,000 square yards of AC, which was the pad for the hangars, as well as approximately 13,500 cubic yards of that roughly 160,000 cubic yards of dirt that's getting moved. So we've just started, but we've made some really good progress. And as long as the weather holds up, we continue to anticipate that the contractor is going to see those efficiencies. And as we work with them, just to make this as least invasive as possible for the users. And so what we've done too is we've set up time-lapse cameras just to give you guys an update and see all the work that's been done. So hopefully, there we go. So this is a picture of the Del Monte hangars looking to the west.
And of course, it's day, night, so you're getting the day, night, daytime, light time.
And so they look really fast.
Yeah, they disappeared.
Flashing.
Yeah. And so that's one camera angle. And so the frame rate is essentially 1 day for 1 second right now. So that was done over the course of December. And then here is the other angle of our hangars at the same time.
What? Going, going, going.
Boy, yeah, they didn't mess around. This angle this is for January from that same first camera, where you can actually start to see them start doing the excavation and lowering the ramp to the taxiway and runway elevation.
About how many people is this employing? Know that?
I don't know off the top of my head. It varies depending on the day and what crews are out there.
A lot of trucks though, so there's definitely great opportunity.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
and then obviously surveyors and other, I'll say, support folks that are out here on a daily basis. So it depends on what's happening at that particular day. The workforce would vary in terms of number of people.
So then, so that's where we have gone through. Can I have the, that's where we've been in the quick 40, so some days. You know, they took down those hangars. They've already started to move quite a bit of the dirt and do the cut. And that's in the areas that they could work where we're not impacting anyone yet. So now next phase, and where they've been doing the fill, and that was that corner angle that Dan showed you in that last one, is where the overflow lot used to be for long-term parking, where the tenants used to park. So at the last meeting, Whitney walked you through what we did and how we moved the tenants from where they were parked to their new parking location. So now the next phase will be to move our long-term parking from its current location, because that will go through the same construction activity you just saw. But we need a temporary long-term parking lot first before we can do that. We don't have an exact date. The weather has put a delay on a little bit of it, or a pause, not necessarily a delay. They've moved their initial schedule to us had them getting into the current long-term parking area in early June. We're now going to be in there in March. So they are moving efficiently and even with the weather are way ahead of what they had initially anticipated in their schedule. But we don't have an exact date, but it will be most likely, the weather holding like it is sometime in March, that we will be starting the move from the current long-term parking lot to the temporary long-term parking lot. And this is going to be our communication plan. So we have this graphic that shows people, it'll be posted on our website. We'll be using it. The parking attendants will be passing it out. We will be using social media and all kinds of other methods. And we're going to actually do a media walk. Once we have the pavement down, we don't want to do dirt, and we don't want muddy dirt to be showing them. We would like to show them somewhat of a parking lot. There is a pause between putting the pavement down and then putting the striping down. So we know we have a window there. Once the pavement gets down, we know that really kind of starts our clock of when we need to start doing the communications, because it's a 30-day window before striping goes down. And that's our goal, is 30 days prior is starting the communication. So again, right now we don't have, they had on the 3-week look ahead the paving, but it's fallen off because of the weather. So we don't have that yet in our 3 to 4 week look ahead, but it will be coming soon. So parking concession, begins communicating with the passengers, the graphics posted. We'll create and publish social media posts. We're inviting the media for a tour once the paving is complete and get them to help us get the word out and then evaluate the process and repost and adapt as necessary. Additional notification plans are to continue to evaluate the number of spaces. One of the things we've mentioned before is we really felt we were going to be very stretched on spaces. But as we're getting more information from the contractor, they don't, one of the components of the project is they'll be bringing a concrete batch plant on site because the ramp is all concrete. And that's the most efficient way to do it. We had set up aside in the contract documents a certain area for them. It doesn't appear that they need all that area. So we're going to be able to recapture some more for additional spaces. So we actually think we'll have more spaces than we currently have in our long-term lot available for the temporary long-term lot. So we'll have approximately what we would have had used with long-term and overflow, because there were times where we went into what was called an overflow situation where passengers would prepay and then park where our tenants park. So we think we're going to have almost as many spaces as we have used in our max capacity days. So that helps a bit with what we'll have available. But again, working through the final numbers on that right now as we get more information. A contingency plan for overflow, which we have and we've been working on, and other opportunities, again, other media, encourage rideshare. Whitney's had conversations with Uber and Lyft. They'll help us get words out, the notifications out to passengers that they have that are in the community. They do postings all the time. And we'll be looking at a valet or something similar. This goes to the question that Director Soni had earlier about how do we communicate? How are we communicating what we've done before as far as the terminal and the community outreach that we had, as well as how are we going to communicate in the future? And this is a work in progress, but we are building an internal website. It is available now, but we haven't really pushed it out yet. Because there's not a lot on it quite yet, but there will be quite a bit. So we have the ability, and we're really trying to build the picture of why are we doing this? What is the whole process behind all of the components of the project, not just the ramp or not just the art facility, but also the terminal. Why is the terminal being relocated? And it really is that safety enhancement component. So we have an area in there that has a safety enhancement program and it walks them through. We have a timeline that goes back to the master plan and the EIR and the EA, and we'll go through and we'll build it as we continue to go through. There's a newsroom, there's a gallery of pictures. We have a calendar there, and when we think we're going to start to have impact days, or if we think we're going to start to have impact days for parking, we will be notified, putting that on the calendar, potential impact days, consider rideshare, and that will be part of that communication plan that we're working on. And then facts and figures. So Director Soni, again, to your question of how many people we're going to put that information out there. How many people are we employing? What is the cost to the benefit to the community on the project? So all of these, it's available, but again, we haven't broadcast it widely yet because we are building the information. We now have a nice plan that we can put for the terminal. So we'll put the concept plan that you just saw up there. And now we can start to really build the momentum on the communication and where people can go for it. And with that, I'll take questions, but then I will walk you through the update on the safety enhancement program and all of the components of what we're doing, what you can look forward to as we go forward. And that's in the back of the presentation that you have in front of you. But also, I'm not sure, Denise, did you print out a large one for them too? Yep, and you have a large one in front of you as well too. So if you want to ask questions first on the project, or if you want me to just walk you through this, your pleasure.
I think I'll open it up for questions. Director Soni.
Thank you. Amazing to see construction done so quickly. And I know it was very efficient, was around here around Christmas time, quite a few times. Wonderful to see. I actually did find the Metamorphosis page and really like what's there and want to compliment the efforts to communicate to our constituents as well as our community, you know, what the benefits are and why we're doing this all for this century, ultimately, in many ways, in the future. I don't think I have specific questions at this point. I just want to really compliment communication, being in front of it and providing clear, concise communication is so important. I assume, and I know you did this when you moved the employee walkway, you made sure that the walking was very safe, and looking at the long-term parking lot being further away, we'll have some sort of similar, I think you guys put like guardrails up, not guardrails, but call it what you want, the plastic things.
It won't be guardrails, but it will be a marked walkway.
Okay,
And there are solar lights in the parking lot as well, so it's not a dark lit light. And while it seems deceiving, the location and the walkway is not much further than the furthest they used to go when they went past the fire department and parked out there.
okay.
So that would look shorter because it was a straight look over.
Yeah.
This will appear to be longer, but it is a similar length and path.
If you take a string and do the swing, understand. So just really appreciate the clear communication. I think if there's any way to maybe have a baggage drop-off area, and I know how tight our drop-off area is. There was a comment on social media. I see you guys are working on that with operations too. But I know that that whole area is going to be really impacted as we go through some of these things. So anything we can do and working with our Delray Oaks Police just to make sure people are moving on. I've certainly been at airports where I've been asked to scuttle on, come back around. I think we all have while we're waiting for a loved one or a family or friend to come. I think that's important too, that we maybe just make sure that we're encouraging movement versus just sitting at times. So thank you for the well communicated and shared update.
Director Miller.
Nice to see, thank you. Nice to see the project come along. What about future expansion? Are we putting conduit in to, if something else were to come up that we're not anticipating right now?
Future expansion for.
Well, even of the terminal or just something that may change at the ramp area?
We are putting in lots of conduit, and again, not knowing, they haven't done a load capacity yet for the terminal building. So yes, we have anticipated, we have a utility corridor that will be put in with lots of conduit, but not pulling all the things. So yes, we are looking to the future for that.
Okay, very good. What about solar in the parking lot? I know we've talked about that.
Not in this temporary, so this is temporary.
I
commercial.
know not in the temporary, but in the long term, or
That will.
is that premature to bring this up now?
That will get looked at, I think, in the next phase of design, when they're looking at the lead, how do we get to lead platinum in the terminal building? There will be options to look at, so that will
Okay.
come.
Okay, thank you.
Director Pick.
Thanks. Great presentation, Chris. The online information portal will be terrific to see. I'm glad to hear about that. The only question I have is relates to the distance between sort of the farthest parking in the new lot to the existing terminal, and whether that presents any kind of challenge for us for the elderly, small children, and if so, any kind of thought to shuttles or anything like that.
We have looked at and we are looking at, but as I said, it's actually a similar distance to the furthest parking, long-term parking that we currently had.
Okay.
Over here. Deceivingly, because you can see the straight line going circuitously from one to the other where you're going around. It will appear to be longer, but it is similar. But we also don't lose this parking over here. So we don't lose our handicapped, we don't lose our close-in parking, and we don't lose that intermediary parking where the EV chargers are. So that remains, that all remains in place and does not go away. So, but we are evaluating what kind of options might we have. Whitney's taking that lead on that piece of what might we be able to do for other enhancements.
Great,
too.
thanks.
That's all true.
Director Gagliardi.
And, all the directors asked all the questions and everything was answered. So, but just, I mean, just to kind of reiterate, wonderful
The
presentation.
mic.
And
John, can you lean forward to your mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. Wonderful presentation. And I just appreciate just the organization. So yeah, great job.
Thank you. Looking forward to next month.
And I don't, if you want to just, look at your safety enhancement program and the next steps, we're trying to build in, where we'll be next, the schematic design, as we just said, you just got that presentation. Building the plan, Mark's working on building the plan of finance team with the RFQ review. So you'll see that, this is adaptable and will be adapted as we need to add or adjust things. But, there's the terminal design in the darker gray, the apron construction at the bottom, and then again, decision-making process here. The yellow is when we'll be bringing things forward to the board for decisions. And again, this will be updated regularly as we add more components to it or as things shift.
Exciting.
Do we have any opportunity to just put a sign out there when you come off of Olmsted, like it's Olmsted and Garden, about our improvements?
We don't own that right of way. We could talk to the city about that.
I mean, I
Sure.
see them at other airports
Sure.
when they're doing things like, the pardon our dust kind of thing. We're in the middle of blah, 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 coming soon. And, which kind of goes with, I don't know, one of these was, I saw it. Anyway, just something maybe to
Transfer.
Maybe maybe in the long term, we have to, so we'll be relocating the current long-term gate arm. It has to be moved, and the exit arm. And then the monument sign that's going into long-term parking with the rates will move with the parking lot, the long-term temporary parking lot. I'd just be cautious because we're gonna have a couple signs that are pretty close to each other, because that entrance to the long-term parking lot is moving closer to the end of where Garden Road is. So we are gonna have, a couple signs right there that are necessary to make sure but we can look at something as they enter the lot possibly, just kind of gives them a sense of why we've moved them what appears to be further away and into a different location.
Yeah, just maybe something to. Hey, we're moving 162,000 cubic yards of dirt and people.
Sure.
Director Sonia, yeah.
Yeah. one
Okay, we're
question.
2 bites at this apple.
Has there been, I know last month, I think there was a question about some off-site parking or working with our neighbors on Garden Road and maybe getting some parking. Have we ever thought of pricing just like a week parking for $20 or, I don't know, pick a number, but taking those people that are maybe here for, parking for a longer time period, and then that would free up closer spots. I'm sensing that it's going to be it's tight real estate.
You're speaking about a dynamic pricing model to kind of free up some spaces. The folks that I've been talking to about the valet and the potential shuttle services, that is something that they are able to implement. So yes, we're discussing it, but.
And Uber and things too, obviously, but I think if there's anything that we need to do here on the dais, I would be in support of, certainly lowering prices, as we have some dust and dirt to move.
Keep in mind, we got a big bond to pay for.
Mm.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
And as we're setting up for the next presentation, our capacity is about 250 to 275 for seating currently.
Okay, that's the number you were looking for. Thank you.
That was Carl.
Yeah, that was me. Thank you.
Okay, item number 4, which is a resolution number 1865, authorizing and approving the work order between the Monterey Peninsula Airport District and AAA Fence Company Incorporated.
Good morning. It's nice to be back in front of you. Again, resolution 1865, as you just read, we need to move a lot of dirt. A lot of soil needs to be excavated and relocated. There's a number of locations on the north side, including the space just to the west of the new northeast hangars, and also the existing airside RV lot. So as the board knew, there was going to be a requirement to fund some improvements to the RV lot. Granite Rock has already prepared the site on the north side. We have engineering approved compaction of soil and millings. The FY24 capital improvement budget included district funded improvements to the value of $75,000 for this process. We reached out to using the qualified list of contractors, reached out looking for quotes to use reclaimed fencing from the demolished southeast ramp and take that fencing and prepare the new RV on the north side. We received one quote from AAA Fencing. Their schedule allows for immediate mobilization. Based on recent fencing projects that we had, their unit cost was very reasonable. And because of that, apologize. They came out with a total work order cost of $51,650, which based on existing recent fencing projects is a reasonable cost based on the staff's opinion. So based on that, the staff recommends the adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. I'll open it up to the public. I see our public shaking his head no. No one on Zoom with a question. I will say that we did discuss this in finance and we found it, we were unanimous in passing it on to the full board as a go. So open it up for questions, comments. Director Gagliotti?
No.
Director Pick?
Oh, ma'am.
Director Miller?
Remind me, because we also talked about this in lease development and we're supportive of it. What would it cost to put new fencing over there? How much money are we saving exactly?
New fencing, we didn't get an estimate for using new fencing. To use the reclaimed fencing was what the estimate was for.
Which is good because we're not having to get rid of the old stuff, but I'm just curious, how much money, do you have an estimation on what we would spend if we were to put new fencing in there?
I only know the per foot we paid at the last budget, but we was $68 per foot, and this is closer to $60 per foot.
Okay,
So it's gonna add up.
okay, thank you.
Director Sani?
And I wasn't in either of those meetings. Is this a lease or is this a purchase for the fencing?
We own the fencing. It's all fencing that we've removed from the southeast ramp.
You're just moving it to the
Our
other side.
maintenance personnel and the contractors that showed it over in the lot that we're on the fence.
Okay,
So it's already on site.
okay. And then could someone clarify, I believe we have 2 RV lots?
We
Is,
do.
okay,
Currently. So this is the main lot that's right here up by the airfield. So this lot is slated for soil. That's one of the soil sites that we're going to be moving soil to. So we need to move those tenants. Those tenants are moving to where the outside storage used to be. They all left when the hangars became occupied. So all those leases were canceled. And so that whole area was another area identified in our master plan as an area for some of the soils and the grindings, which we did. So that some of that first soil and grindings went over to the RV lot or over to where the outside storage was. Now we need to move the RVs over to be able to put soil where they currently are residing. As we said, everyone's sharing the pain on the airfield of the airport of moving.
Every domino moves.
musical chairs. So again, this is, I believe there's a larger and then there's a
This is the larger
smaller.
of the 2 lots, correct?
larger
And
of
there's a
the two.
smaller lot.
Okay.
That's actually going to be in this, about the same location. It's down, you have the airport road forks off to the right to go over to the new hangar location and the ARF location. And then North Road cuts down. The smaller lot is at the corner of North Road and Airport Road. And this lot will be further past that on North Road.
And we don't see changing or losing anything with it.
Nope.
It's the same amount of
It's a
space.
like
It's just
like.
a
Exactly, the same
do-si-do.
number of spaces are going into that location. We're building for to move those tenants that we currently have over to their no new.
Okay. I appreciate the clarification on, I knew that there were two storage facilities so to some extent, certainly in support of the fencing.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
Go ahead.
Chair, I'll move that we adopt resolution number 1865, a resolution authorizing and approving the work order between the Monterey Peninsula Airport District and AAA Fence Company, Inc.
Second.
The second was Sonny. Roll call, please.
Director Gagliotti.
Aye.
Director Pick.
Aye.
Director Soni.
Yes.
Director Miller.
Yes.
Chair Leffel.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Second is resolution number 1866, a resolution approving participation in the fiscal year 24 Clean Vehicle Program of the Monterey Bay Air Resources District.
At budget time, we had mentioned that we had put in an application with MPAD for a grant to help support the purchase of another electric truck. We were notified that we are a recipient of one of those grants for $10,000. So this resolution is giving us the approval to execute that grant award. And then Whitney's team, the operations and maintenance team, will bring forward a recommendation in the future for a new purchase of a new truck. This will replace the 2003 Ford Ranger that we had gotten rid of at the beginning of this fiscal year because it no longer worked.
So to be clear, this is simply that we are approving the grant of $10,000.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. So with that, I would ask it be considered resolution 1866.
Okay, I will open it up to the public for comment. A shake of a head, no. Any public on Zoom? Seeing none. I will open it up for comments, questions. Director Sani?
None.
Okay,
In
Director
support of
Miller?
it.
Have you seen the new Tesla truck by any chance?
Is it worth $10,000?
It looks modern, looks like an airplane. I'm just curious, how is, and maybe this is a quick question for Whitney, how is the electric truck we have right now? It's a Ford Lightning, and I've been hearing mixed reviews on those. How is it working for us?
It works well for us in terms of the capabilities. It has a lot of bells and whistles that we have in our back pocket. It has the ability to be a generator. The one thing that I'd say is kind of lacking on all electric trucks is the truck bed capacity. The truck beds are a little short.
That's the battery.
So, and that's across the board.
That's also a Ford door, isn't it? We have.
Yes, it is a quad cab, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Director Pick?
No question.
Director Gagliardi? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second? Do we have a second?
Second. John.
Okay, Director Miller, Director Gagliardi? Roll call, please.
Director Gagliotti.
Aye.
Director Pick.
Aye.
Director Soni.
Yes.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Sure. Yes, thank you. Okay, we're going to talk about the schedule for a strategic business workshop.
Yes, please. We want to get this on calendar so that we can formalize our relationship with the facilitator and get everyone geared up toward, get us geared up toward budget. We'll be in the middle of budget when we do this, but I wanted to suggest the following dates and see if those work with your calendars. March 19th, which is Friday. I'm sorry. Yeah, March 19th.
Tuesday.
No, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong calendar. Let's do this again. April 19th, which is a Friday, April 22nd, Monday, April 23rd, a Tuesday, April 24th, Wednesday. We're looking for the better part of the whole day. And the intent is to review the product that came out of the last strategic session at the front end of this meeting, but then go into a strategic business session.
You-
Where we get you to tell us what your vision is. What we can plan.
Chair, can I start?
Could I hear the dates again?
April 19.
Yes.
April 22, April 23, April 24.
So Mike, I'll just start since I think I'm probably going to be the busiest, unfortunately. So I will be out of the country from March 25th to April 26th.
March 25th?
Yep.
Through the 26th, the whole month?
Through
That's
April.
everything.
So you're.
I know. So,
Okay, so
I
we'll
mean,
go a little deeper.
if it's possible to push to 29 or 30 April,
And I'm out of town that week.
okay. Or potentially go sooner.
Wait a minute, John, you're out the 29th, 30th?
Yes.
You do remote, you know? No,
That's hard on a strategic.
it
I
is
would
very
not
hard.
want to do that.
but if he's gone for a month, that makes it hard too.
Carl and I are going to Nashville on the
26th through
26th.
the first.
Now, are
March
you
or
leaving and
April?
going?
Yeah, I'm leaving for Europe, right after that. So I get back, so the 26th of April to the 20th of May. I'm,
So,
yeah.
so it
I
sounds
shouldn't
like
have give Dino such a hard time, but
I just wanted to make it clear, Mr. Pot.
How does May or March look for people?
So I think we almost have to move it into the first or second weeks of April or the very first of,
May
move it before March 25th.
or that. Yeah.
I don't think we can be, I should say that. That's a little difficult for me. Searches.
yeah.
Okay.
When do you leave, Dino?
March
25th.
25th.
March 25th.
Okay.
It's just a super busy time. Sorry.
26th of April.
Yep.
And then Carl's gone.
The 26th.
Yeah, we're leaving. on
Through the 20th.
26th.
Yeah, Carl and I both leave on the morning of the 26th.
Okay. Well, at least we got information from you. Let us get back working on this. We will circulate some of these.
Can we split it into like 2 sections? And we did that with our last strategic.
Rather,
I'd rather
Yeah,
just
I don't think
take it all.
because I have to take these days off. So
Yeah, I don't think that works well.
Well, for 2 months, we're completely
Done.
jammed.
well, so if the other board members are available and I'm the only guy missing, and we need to get it done to be in a timeline for budget and all of that, then I'm okay missing. If it's possible to have us all here, I'd love that.
I would prefer that everyone be here.
Great. I'd love
so
that.
Everyone has some input and has their vision.
Okay.
What I look for in this meeting is you guys reaching consensus on what the next looks like. What do we do with general aviation? What do we do with the north side, which is an open question? How do we develop the northwest corner? What are we looking for on the 68 corridor? Are there new land acquisition opportunities we should be focusing on? I want to get that kind of vision and feeling from you. I think it would be best if you're all.
Okay, so initially, what were the dates you gave us? March, April.
April 19, 22, 23.
Okay.
Months that put up. Doesn't sound like those are gonna work. and that's fine.
And there's no way we could go to March 22nd, which is 1 month from now?
Yeah. I can do that remotely.
I can't do the last week of March. I can do the week of the 18th. I'm out of town on the
You can.
last week and not do the last. week.
No, okay.
But the
But you
18th
can do the week of the 18th. Okay.
Yes.
I'll be in Tampa. Can do it remotely.
But you could do that one
Yep,
remote.
yep.
Because you'll be in.
3 hours.
Yeah.
But I'll be out. I'm out that whole week, 25th.
No, the
No,
week
the
before,
18th.
The 18th.
We're talking about the week of the
18th.
18th.
We have a board meeting that week, the 20th.
On the 20th, right? Yeah.
We can try for the 22nd. That work?
Yeah, I have.
22nd of March.
Yeah.
John, it works for you? Dino could do it remote.
Yep.
I can, Carl?
I'm looking right now, but,
Lisa, you said yes for that week. And that's the week of our board meeting, so we do then Wednesday and Friday, if that were the case.
yeah, 22nd of Friday, I'm free.
I think we got the best of it, yeah.
Yeah, particularly because of budget, because we really need to get, so we've got some kind of idea where we're going.
Honestly, I envision this more as a long-range budget discussion. I don't think it'll necessarily affect this year's budget, but it would be good to get that wrapped in.
Facilitator was, when I tried to do this last year as chair, the issue became who's going to facilitate or what are we looking at? So I'd like to get your idea with that and then.
Facilitator that is ready to do is John Coster. John lives in Minnesota. He is the founder of the engineering firm, aviation engineering firm, Landwehr Brown. He has since stepped aside from there. He's semi-retired, but he's still vibrant and attached to the industry quite closely. And I think that would be a good resource for us to have. John is a wealth of knowledge about the industry, where it's been, and where he'll have his ideas of where it's going.
Do we have a CV or something that we could, and I mean, he's done a lot of facilitating. Is there a website? Okay, or a website?
This one's going to be focused on the airport, the future of the airport.
Mhm.
And I suggest that we start at 8:30 so that we get our coffee and get everything done so that then we're ready to roll at 9 o'clock.
Find a location that works. With the ability to have remote help.
I'll try to get home Thursday. Be here in person.
On-site, off-site?
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
That's not.
Okay, well, hopefully he's available on March 22nd.
Thing we'll do is we'll go to John and see what his availability is.
Can't fly direct to Minneapolis yet. August.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're gonna go to, does anybody have any questions on any of the board reports that were in their package? I'm not talking about minutes and meetings. I'm talking about staff board reports.
No questions. None.
I had one, and it was on the fire department reports. Let me see what, this is a week ago.
Fuel spill?
Yeah, it was the oil spill. So my question was, who pays for that? I'm guessing, was it at the FBO? That's what I thought, looking at that.
That's correct. The spill happened near the FBO, and as terms of our fire contract, they are responsible for emergency response and cleanup. If it gets to a size that they can't handle, then there are other contractors that we can go.
Okay, so. But does the FBO pay extra for that?
I'd say no, they don't. However, they are responsible to have the cleanup agents. All of our operators have spill kits. So we run through their supplies first. And then if it's not enough to contain, then we dip into supplies that are at the fire station.
Okay, I read it and I went, huh.
If it goes beyond the capability of the firefighters, then we have to bring in a contractor to do it. Yeah.
So also then the, lovely red. It occurred to me, and this has to do with also what we've got going on, that it may take people a little bit longer once they come on our property just to get in because they are going to park in a different place they're not used to. It may or may not be a little bit longer walk, depending if we're full or not. So I was thinking maybe we could put something really big on our website saying, please leave enough time. You know, we're under construction. It may take a few more minutes. Just give yourself enough time because, I mean, I know Dino said he's had it. I've had it here in the past. I've learned my lesson. I'm always here now an hour and a half early, but I didn't used to be. And I learned when I had to buy a $682 ticket to get on another plane. So, I think it might be just a good thing of communicating and just putting it out there because I talked to the group that I talked to last week. And there were people like, I love getting to that airport because I can get there 30 minutes before. And that's like, oh boy. So.
Noted.
It's,
It was part of that communication plan and why we're building what we're building.
yeah. But it's almost like a flashing red light, like, hello, we're local, but you need to get here. Any other board reports, anyone? You read it? You understand it? Got no questions, Lisa?
I do have, on the operations, let's see, this is from Miss Morello. Art at the airport, I saw the new exhibit out there. There's also a new exhibit in the main room.
You weren't here when I mentioned that during
Okay.
the.
Right at the beginning?
Yeah, at the
Okay.
beginning. We are doing an opening reception. The Central Coast Art Association will be doing an opening reception on March 7th, starting at 5 p.m. And then it will include the invite to the Seaside High School students who are getting graphic. That one will come down. That one's been up for almost 3 months. That one will come down after the opening reception. So, and we'll be putting up a new student one. So we'll have 2 student art exhibits in March in honor of the Youth Art Month.
Wonderful. I just, as I was on the phone call, I actually looked at the display. It's always wonderful to see. I hope we keep the old displays as well, or do. I hope they can find homes or however it is. I know that we do get borrowed material there
Most
too.
of the stuff is always borrowed.
Borrowed.
So it goes back to we have rental agreements with everyone that lets us use them, and then they go back to the people that. rented them.
That were kind enough to share, understand. And for the executive director's report, I see air service development training for some of our team members or staff, which is wonderful. The acting manager, of the airports district office of the FAA, Mike, you stated that there's some transition there? Okay.
Yeah, the manager was called to another duty in Los Angeles at the regional office, and they're actively pursuing the manager at the airports district office in San Francisco.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to standing committee reports, budget and finance. John, I think we covered everything.
We did.
The resolutions.
Yes, that's right.
So we have nothing.
And we also talked about,
PFM.
yeah, right, the UAL.
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time on UAL, so
I think that was the SCAS DP grant that did come through.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the fall, correct? That's happened.
$750,000.
Yeah, well, I was thinking it was 500. Is it 750?
3 months ago.
Yeah, fall. And is that for the year? New flight. I remember when it was announced. I was just seeing that out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Air service marketing. We talked about Sun Country possibly announcing.
Now it's been announced, big news.
I was on KSB or yeah, KSBW.
Yeah.
I've watched KSBW, not KLA,
Yeah.
not Sun, not Sun.
Whatever.
We got some. Said, well, they never fly out of Monterey, so.
Oh, great.
Thank you. We never advertise on KILN, I don't know.
Great.
Yeah, it was just, like, yeah, I did
Nothing else from me.
interview this morning with
Nothing else from me.
James Herrera, the Herald,
Mm.
Herald and Italy to be in tomorrow or the following day.
Great.
Okay. Any questions from that? I mean, that's basically what we covered.
Yep.
Okay.
Cheapest fare is $138 round trip.
It's not bad.
That's not bad.
6 months out though.
How much leg room?
Not enough for you.
Yeah.
It was always a great flight to Mexico.
You get asked to be in the baggage compartment, lay it
That's
down.
right. Get 2 seats.
Put you in a golf bag and zip you up.
Ski bag. It's longer.
Airport property development and leases, directors Miller and Pick.
Well, we talked at great length on the moving of the dirt and repurposing that prior area we talked about here and approved. So that was all good news. We're putting the dirt at other locations too, right?
We are.
Just not only the one that we talked about, but
You got plenty to go around.
Yeah.
Chris can tell you all of the places. that we're using.
Yeah, the first was to, as I shared at the presentation, the borrow pit. So we
Right.
had borrowed, so that's taking a good amount of it.
Mm.
And we also had put some of the grindings from the asphalt and the concrete that were underneath the pads over here for the hangars in that outside storage area. And now the next place is, we believe that this RV lot will be the only other location that we need. We
Okay.
have other locations identified, but we think that the rest of the dirt will all be able to be accommodated in this one more location.
and that would open it up for being used for other purposes, not unlike San Francisco and Hong Kong reclaiming land. No, it was, and besides that, you mentioned you met with the interim fire chief and we're on their radar as far as keeping service up here and everything and working to smooth out some things in our current lease.
Yeah, we are. We both decided that it was time to start anew. So we're gonna try to rebuild some bridges that may have gotten a little smudged, let's put it that way, during contract discussions.
I'm glad to hear that.
Really.
The interim fire chief now is Andrew Miller. He was the one that was the fire chief when the first contract was worked out here. So he's very familiar with the airport.
He is very open. It was kind of a refreshing conversation. He's very open to working with us. And, I shared with him our desire to.
He's got a soft spot in his heart for our airport. His son learned to fly here. He's currently a pilot with Delta, living in Reno and flying also for the Air National Guard there.
Nice.
So other than that, Dino, we talked about the FONSA thing, and do you have any Forza? Do you have any update on that as far as?
That's MPI as well. MPI
No
lease.
update, other than we're looking at a, May 1st commencement date.
And that would be where motion,
Yeah, as a new lease for the space.
yes.
We're just going through the mechanics of getting the Cal towing, situation cleared away and having that site be cleaned up. And that's a condition precedent to the transaction.
Very nice. Thank you. That's all do you know, do we have anything else?
Nothing else, Carl. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Local jurisdiction liaison, we did not meet, but we will have one coming up this next month, once it's confirmed. I think it will be. Local agency formation. We are in the process of rewriting the policy on agricultural mitigation, and I anticipate I have a call with them in about 30 minutes that we will have that new policy at the board meeting on Monday, and that it will pass. So, yeah. Last one was done in 2010. It was
It's
time.
time.
It was time. Lots of change between then and now. We do have an opening on LAFCO. Did we get a ballot yet for
No,
that
not-
seat?
We don't have it yet.
Okay,
Oh, is this Pete?
not Pete. But we'll have one within the next month. Regional Taxi Authority,
No meeting?
no meeting. Transportation Agency for Monterey County,
Me?
yeah.
MC.
Oh, yes, we had a meeting and nothing new to report. They're really focusing on the improvements to Castroville, that area, some sort of a off-ramp, on-ramp to improve the safety there. That's their latest thing. And also on 68, just finalizing all the input for the EIR on either roundabouts or adaptive lighting signaling, but I don't think they've come to a decision yet. We have a meeting coming up towards the end of this month.
Special districts,
No update.
Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments. I zoomed in and there was very little, there was nothing actually that impacted us. It was a lot of discussion on housing. So, which was not housing that it's the same housing that we've been talking about, RENA numbers and what's going on, so. With that, discussion of future agenda items. We talked about the strategic planning, hopefully March 22nd. Does anybody have anything they would like to ask for future agendas?
I've got a couple items. The MPI lease, if we could just have that pending. I think I know it was in the Forza MPI lease. It was there before, that we'd have review of that. And then the microphones on the tables. I know that that's been a long-term item. If we can just do what we need to do to make sure that all microphones are working. I know maybe it's batteries or things like that. And finally, I, as one board member, didn't receive communication when the airport went to generator power this last storm, or two storms before. And just, again, I'd like a revisit personally and see if any other director is interested in our emergency communication plans. We had a verbal that was done while I was chair, but it really wasn't well formatted and wasn't discussed much. And I think there is need for strategic communications that happen. I understand some communications that happen internally cannot be shared with the public, but I think there is certainly some communication that could be. So I'll open this to the board and to my fellow directors. I think there is need for that. And again, it's not fun as a board member to get phone calls and to get what's going on and to feel like you really don't have knowledge. I will share, I came here and had brunch with my husband after church and the FIDS was not working. And by the time we left, it was working. The generator was also on that day. So it's good to see that there was quick turnaround and services were restored for our airport and the people that use it. But again, I think we need to improve communications once again.
I seem to recall getting something about the generator out. Did you send out a text on that? Yeah, I remember
Generator's
seeing it.
working, but the power was out, right? I mean, that's what, yeah, that's
Power goes out, we move automatically to
the
generator.
generator. I
There
got,
was a text?
Yeah.
I believe I was texted or.
Okay, well, we'll take it offline. I'd like to see it because I don't think I was on that.
Okay. And also on the contract, you just sent the contract out at the last,
Yeah, we all got it.
yeah,
The MPI lease.
it was. in
We
the
all got the
packet.
old
The
Forza
last
lease.
packet had that in it.
And we had conversation in January about it.
It was in the back of the
That,
package.
but it was to be reviewed. It was not just to be provided for. And we had conversation about that in January.
Okay, so let me ask you, did you read it and do you have comments on it? Are you concerned about it? Because we as a group approved it, to me, in a tacit way in that it was in the package and nobody pulled it to talk about it. I went to Mike and Scott on one issue because I had wanted to make sure that it was a 3-month deposit as opposed to 1 month, which was when we had voted before, we said we would approve it, but we wanted that put in. And when we got the new lease in the package, that was in there. So I reviewed based on my notes from 18 months or 2 years ago.
It was
Lisa,
COVID.
I looked
It
at
was
it
COVID.
and reviewed it. And I went back, I told you that, I pulled the old lease because I had it and I checked them. And that was the one thing that I had asked for as a board member and it was in there. So
But my understanding is it's not final at this point, that it's pending.
So Carl, if
And
I
I'm asking-
recall discussing it in lease committee, this
Yeah.
is something that the board has approved for execution.
Yes.
Correct.
The question I had in lease committee is, are the terms still relevant? Because it's been a while.
Yeah.
And the answer was yes. Terms are appropriate and proper and we should move forward.
That's-
So I think the board has approved it for
Yeah.
action.
Okay.
Maybe
So
Scott. maybe
Scott, if you
help.
can forward the current lease, I would appreciate that.
If we wanted to relook at something like this, there is a process that has to be followed if it's something we've already approved, right?
There is.
And that would be number of people saying they no longer approve it.
Or a change to the circumstances.
There is, although again, when you have a contract, you know, that you have approved, now you've given a right to a third party, in this instance, MPI, is it Motion Products?
Yeah, Motion Products Incorporated.
To review there's an additional wrinkle with a contract versus just an item that you wanted to approve, like if you approve the budget or something like that, that you control. But yes, there is a process to review something, but and again, I'm just gonna ballpark, about 18 months or so ago, it was approved, provided there was a change to the deposit, as I recollect.
Yep.
And the request was to have that put back in the agenda for review by the board to take a look at. And my understanding was I'm going from memory, my understanding was it was provided in the packet with the last month's agenda.
So where was it voted upon? Or it didn't need to be voted
It
upon
didn't need,
because it was an extension.
It was approved with that change.
And my recollection in January, and again, Director Leffel or Chair Leffel, you're the one that actually brought it to all of our attention. And I think this was a COVID matter at the time, was that we weren't given the lease at the time. So it's fine. If Scott, if you could just forward me what was the final lease, I will appreciate it. I do recall that it was just in the packet, but there was never anything done with it. And again, my understanding was that it was not a finalized thing. And it's in the meeting notes that it's still pending a bit, right?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
No, it was.
So
fully-
it's final. They've transferred.
Yeah, we spent,
Okay.
we spent a great deal of time on that lease with the board, probably 3 different touches at board level. Board finally approved it. It is done and dusted deal.
Okay, wait, I want to make this really clear because I just heard something that was not correct. So just to be clear, we approved that lease how many months ago? A year and a half or so ago between Forza and MPI. With the caveat that what was brought to us on that date, whenever that was going to be added, not a 1-month deposit, but a 3-month security deposit because of the problems we've had with that tenant. That was it. Then when you brought it forward in, I don't know, November or whenever it was, and said, okay, it's been approved, I raised the question like, okay, I've never saw anything that had the 3 months in there. Can we see it? Because I want to make sure that what we voted on is in there. So what was in our package, whenever it was last month or the month before, it was in the back of our package. I took it out, I read it. Like I said, I told Lisa this, I pulled it out of my file, my old one. I looked at them. The one change was 1 month to 90 days. So I was good with it. No one brought it up in the meeting. So A, it was voted on 18 months ago and approved. But B, Lisa, it has not transferred yet. You said that as you were saying that, it has not, because Mark told us it has not
Yeah, that's
closed
what I'm.
until May 1st. I just want to be clear that we all know all the steps in here, because otherwise there's some misunderstanding and we don't need to talk about it again. So are we good with it? It's been voted on, it was approved, the change was made, and they are evidently going forward for May
May
1st.
Lease committee's good with it.
Send me.
Lease committee's good with it.
Yeah, okay, and
Thank
lease
you.
committee was good with it. Okay, so can I have a motion for adjournment?
Are
So
we
move.
doing anything with the communications?
I
Yeah.
am going to ask that come to air service and we will take a look at the communication plan, and because it's a community relations communication thing, and we'll take a look at it and then see what we need to bring to the full board.
Wonderful.
Okay,
Thank
Move
you.
adjourn.
12:01.
second,
Second.
bye.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. You want to vote me? You want to vote me tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm bringing,
Oh, good.
yeah.